Hi, and welcome back to Anxious to Aligned, Tuning the Soul. I am Holly Bickerstaff, and I am so grateful you're here again, tuning in, literally and energetically. But before I continue on, I want to go on and say that, it kind of bothered me that I didn't do this in the first one, and as I was introducing myself, but instead of saying I am Holly Bickerstaff, which I do like my last name, don't get me wrong, but I've been using Holly Ann for coaching, and I like my middle name. I think Holly Ann flows. So from now on, I will introduce myself as Holly Ann instead of Holly Bickerstaff. I think the flow is just nicer, and my last name is so long. Like, really? No. So, anyways, now that we have that out of the way, so this is episode 2. I'm so glad you're here. And so we are going to start understanding anxiety through the energetic lens. And so in this episode, we are going to go over, how anxiety is more of a signal for something else that is going on in the body. So in the first episode, I did share a bit about my journey, how I went from the place of anxious survival to deep soul alignment. And if you haven't listened to that one yet, feel free to go back after this episode and I'll give you context for why this work means so much to me. As for today, I want to open up a different kind of conversation around anxiety. One that may feel like a bit of a perspective shift, and one that will really open you up into getting to the root cause of what anxiety really is. And so, what if anxiety wasn't just something to fix, but, something maybe more to listen to? What if anxiety was your body's way of telling you something is out of an alignment, energetically, emotionally, even spiritually? So let's talk about it. What is the energetic truth about anxiety? So most of the world still treats anxiety as something that is purely mental. I also think other things of the world, but that is for a later time, especially when we get into big pharma and all of that fun stuff. But that is something we can have a conversation for another thing. You may hear tidbits throughout episodes, or if even you want to have a conversation and go a bit deeper within yourself, I am definitely open to that. But to go back on track, me and my notes, or else we would just be in rabbit holes all over the place. So anyways, so you're told overthinking, overworked, overwhelmed, that maybe, you just had too much on your plate. Or if you could just manage your time better or your sleep better, it would all go away. But what if I told you that anxiety isn't just a sign of mental strain? It's actually energetic misalignment. So in the work that I do, and through my own healing journey, I've come to see anxiety as energy that just gotten stuck, suppressed, or even out of rhythm, if I can talk. It's not just a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's a vibrational imbalance in your whole being, body, mind, and soul. You see, energy is meant to flow. Emotions are energy in motion. And when that motion gets disrupted, whether from trauma, suppression, or simply living in a world that rewards holding it all together, we start to feel pressure inside. And so that pressure is what we call anxiety. It's the inner soul signal that something is out of alignment. It's not a flaw, it's feedback. So think of it like this. Imagine a river that's supposed to flow nice and smoothly. Now you drop a big boulder in it, right in the middle. What happens? The water blocks up, it turns, it gets louder, it crashes into itself. It's trying to find a way to move forward. That's what happens when your emotions are blocked. Your system starts vibrating fast, and you get racing thoughts, tightness in your chest, shallow breathing, tension in your gut, not because you're broken, but because your brilliantly wired nervous system is saying something needs to move, something needs to be felt. And so, one thing, I'm just going to say it here, which I will probably repeat it later on, and I'm sure some things will be repeated here and there, and it's just a way of maybe having a different perspective on things. But the reason why I do sound a lot is our bodies are like a fully orchestrated orchestra. It all has its own rhythm, and if something becomes unbalanced or not working correctly, it probably just lost its sheet music. And it needs to be felt, it needs to be heard, it needs to be emotionally put through. And that's why I love sound, because it helps rebalance all of that and give that piece back its organ, its music, its, whatever it was playing, to become that fully orchestrated orchestra. So I'm going to leave that there because it did just come to my mind and that was not on my script. Anyways, now that nice little side shoot, how energy becomes anxiety. And so let's bring this down to something simple and human. Picture a moment when you were about to cry, but you stopped yourself. Maybe you're at work, maybe you were around family and you didn't want to express yourself. Maybe someone told you to be strong, or that now isn't the time, and you swallowed it. You took a deep breath, you pushed it down, you moved on. But here's the thing. Your nervous system didn't forget. It didn't move on. That energy of grief, hurt, frustration didn't vanish. It got stored. So now think about how many times in your life have you done that? Held back, swallowed your truth, avoided conflict, smiled when you wanted to scream. We've all been trained to suppress, to perform rather than to process. And what happens over time? The emotional backlog grows, right? So your body becomes a storage unit for unprocessed pain. And eventually that energy has nowhere to go. It has to go somewhere. And it starts showing up. Chronic tension in your shoulders, a gut that's all knotted, sleepless nights, and racing thoughts. A heart that is pounding even when nothing is wrong. A baseline that you fear that you can't explain. Anxiety isn't random. It's the residue of everything you've never got to fully feel. And if you don't find a safe way to let the energy move, it starts to overflow through the mind, through the body, and the emotions. It becomes a storm looking for a release. And that's where healing begins. So not with numbing or avoiding the anxiety, but honoring it. With learning how to listen to what it's telling you and giving it a channel to move through, whether it's breath, sound, stillness, or movement. Because once energy is allowed to move freely again, anxiety softens and your system begins to realign. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in one breathwork session or one sound session because, like I said just earlier, remember all the times that you've already held back. Didn't build up in one day. It's not going to take a day to release everything. So healing begins with awareness. So what do we do with all of this, right? How do we move from stuck energy to alignment? From overwhelm to inner ease? We begin with the simplest but most profound step. We slow down. Not in a performative way, like a check it off kind of way, but in a sacred way, where we stop trying to fix ourselves long enough to actually listen. I know it's not like the perceived way to do because we're always on the go, 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 go. Come on. So I get it. It's hard. It's not going to be easy. But when anxiety rises, the old instinct is to fight it. Distract, avoid, numb, overthink, blame. But healing begins when we do the opposite. When we sit with it gently. When we observe what's happening from the inside out without needing to change it right away. I know we're going to want to, but so I have for you a simple practice to try. Something that I do come back to often. So this one is called the 3 breath check-in. So you're going to inhale slowly through the nose, feel your belly expand. And so you really want to feel your belly expand and then your chest. A lot of times, I want to say this kind of before we really begin. If you always kind of watch how your breathing is, it's always short and shallow. This will really be able to help you get in and breathe in. I know with this mic, you're not going to hear me breathe, but we have to start inhaling into your belly. Like if you have to, put your hands on your belly and feel it move out when you inhale. So inhale slowly through your nose, feel your belly expand, and ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? And then exhale out through your mouth with a sigh. What might this feeling be trying to say? Inhale again with compassion, whispering internally to yourself, it is safe to feel. It is safe to soften. And you can repeat that back and forth, trying to, where do you feel this in your body and what is it trying to say? And then telling yourself. And so these are great little affirmations to kind of say to yourself, because when we say them with intention, it really helps to go through. And that's it. The 3 intentional breaths. You can go over it as long as you want, as many times as you want. Just 3 quiet moments of presence. It might not seem like much, but this is where the shift begins. Because the moment you stop resisting your inner world, you create a space for it to be, you create a space for it to recognize itself. So, but before I move on to I want to share a journey with, from my own. Don't get, how do I say this? Going off script. But be gentle with yourself. This is just the starting. When we start this process of healing, I don't want to scare you and say it's never ending. But it's a process, it's a practice, right? So when we do practices, we call it a practice because it doesn't end. It's something that we keep doing. And that's why I like yoga practice. We practice massage therapy. I do massage therapy. Like, it's a practice. So it's something that should be done often. And it really, really helps your soul and going inward. And the start of going inward, it is a practice of moving forward. And it's something that's beautiful, and I don't know what else to say. But it is a practice. It is something that you will have to, I'm not saying you have to spend an hour every day, but just a few minutes, and that's the start of it. And once you start it, you will feel how you become lighter and more aware and how to, because we cannot get rid of stress. And this is how we can deal with it, though. We cannot get rid of anxiety. We can just change our perspective on it. So, okay, going back on track. So I want to share a moment from my own journey. And this was a time my anxiety, it hit the hardest. Um, I can't say a time, but it was with everything was like in chaos, and it was just a big struggle, and my chest would tighten, my thoughts would race, and I wouldn't, it was almost like a panic attack. But I felt like like I've said, being even bullied and stuff like that back in elementary school and high school, I've always had a voice of reason. And for some reason, I always knew to kind of listen to it. And every once in a while, I would feel my heartbeat in my throat. And it was like something that was just totally unreal. But somehow I knew if I took a few deep breaths, I could overcome it. So it was just one time, instead of, reaching for anything or running to someone or doing anything, I took a deep breath. And one time I started, putting my hand on my heart and humming. And it wasn't too long after that when I found the people that did a whole thing on humming. But it was just a soft hum. It wasn't anything, but it totally regulated my nervous system, brought me back into the now. And for me, that was sound. Sound always brought me back. And the vibration, even though it was subtle, it gave my body permission to release. Sound, breathwork, meditation, they aren't just tools. They're invitations to reconnect with your inner rhythm, to rebuild the trust in your body, to tell your system that you are safe. And here's why it matters so much, because when your body feels safe, your soul no longer has to scream to be heard. It can whisper, it can guide, it can reveal. And that's when anxiety shifts from being the tormentor to a teacher. So whenever you are on your journey today, I invite you to try the 3-breath check-in, or even hum, or place your hands on your chest and feel the rhythm to return. And just know you're not broken. You are being asked to come back home to yourself. And just know that the universe would never give you anything that you can't handle. It is designed that way. If you look back on everything that you've already gone through, and look how you came out. Nothing will ever be placed in front of you that you cannot handle. And I think that was one of my game changers, is when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, that is it. Like, I knew I could conquer anything that came in my way. And I knew I could go out and do it. And when I would feel my heartbeat in my throat pounding, I knew if I just hummed to myself, wherever I was, I just took a step back and just breathed. Put a hand on my heart and hummed to myself. And humming is great. And then you can hum into a place where you feel it. Vibration is absolutely amazing. But moving on, because I can go over that all day. So here's something to reflect on this week. When anxiety shows up for you, instead of asking, how do I get rid of this? Try asking yourself, what is this trying to show me? Where do I need more breath, more space, or more compassion? You may be surprised what arises when you stop resisting and start listening. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share with me or share it to a friend on So share with me what you liked about it. And I'd also love for you to share it with a friend who might need a little reminder that they're not broken. They're just being asked to realign with themselves. And if you're ready to take this work deeper, check in. I have my website, which is tranquilitywellnessinc.com/Holly Ann. I have a school group. I will list that in on the website, on the notes page here. You can come share with me. I will put in my Facebook everything to come in. I do have meditations. I know there's a whole bunch of resources, but I will put everything in the little write-up area that I can put it all in. That way, I want to fully support you in your journey going within, and I'd love to hear what everyone thinks or what you think of what comes up for you. But until next time, keep tuning inward. Your soul already knows the